The first question I'd like to ask you is thinking about somebody who's recently become a Christian, someone who's recently given their life to the Lord and really wants to know what to do next. It's they're at the very early stages of their Christian life, and what advice would you give to them?
Well, it's a very good question for us to begin with. And my thoughts immediately went to this scripture in Peter. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 2. Like newborn babes, crave pure spiritual milk. In the AV it says the sincere milk of the word, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation, now that you have tasted that the Lord is good. When you become a Christian, you've just tasted it. It's only a taster. I've been a Christian for a long time, and I started by just tasting it. And when you taste something, you don't really know what's going on. You've got to be very careful what you taste. I've been having to have some medicines, and they say, don't do this and don't do that, make sure it's the right stuff. And you can be very careful with tasting. So, what does it say? As newborn babes. The question is regarding someone who has recently become a Christian. If you've recently become a Christian, you are in fact a newborn babe. Because when we come to Christ, of course you can have an intellectual Christianity, and there is a traditional Christianity. If we've been born in a so-called Christian country, or if we've been educated in a so-called Christian school, we know a lot of basic things. But that's not the same thing as becoming a Christian. If you are just going through the motions, what you believe, what you've heard about, well, we think that, yes, we know you can't avoid it. If you live in England, there is Christmas, which is very different from living in a Muslim country, which have a different feast. So there are cultural matters, but we're not talking about that. The question is about a new born, someone who has recently become a Christian. So we take it that they've already had the formal background, but this is a definite commitment. Recently become a Christian. What do I mean by that? Well, a Christian is somebody who belongs to Christ. Simple as that. A Christian, a Christ one, somebody who belongs to Christ. And if you've decided to follow Jesus, you've become a Christian. Now, how do you develop? Well, then you have to look at any development of a child. And I was looking at this scripture in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 2, like newborn babes, crave pure, sincere milk. Now, that's an amazing thing, isn't it? When a baby is born, it doesn't have to attend lectures on how to eat or the need for the kind of things. It doesn't have all these instructions about, you know, if you buy a commodity which is of important sort of food, you've got a list of all the ingredients and what you should have and what you shouldn't. That is not to us. You desire the sincere, it's a thing which is natural to us. A baby is not lectured on having baby milk. It has a desire for that and will cry until it is fed. So spiritually, it's the same sort of thing. That we desire, we crave for pure spiritual milk. If we're really Christians, we use the term born again. And if we're born again, that is, we've gone through the process of development until we've come to the point of birth. And then we are born into this whole new world, whole new structure. Now, in part of that is this craving for spiritual milk. We'll want it. We don't have to lectures about it. We're longing for it. And so go for it. Go for it. So that you may grow. How do you grow? By feeding on this spiritual milk. And I think that that is so important to be aware of that, because you've tasted. He said, now that you've tasted that the Lord is good. When we become Christians, we haven't got it all. And that's a very important thing to bear in mind. People will ask us all sorts of questions which we cannot answer. Don't worry about that. The fact is, neither can they. But we can answer the questions where God has been revealing himself to us. We know what we are craving. We know what satisfies us. We know what helps us to grow. And that's really what it's all about. Now, there's a start.
That's great.